What's up, guys? My name is Gianni Grippo. I'm here to do an interview with XY&Z. I have the questions here for you guys. I'm just gonna give you my answers. So let's get started, right? So first question, have you picked up any new hobbies or interests during this time? There's not really much of a chance for me to pick up new hobbies during this time. You know, I'm kind of limited as it is. But it has given me an opportunity to do some different things or try to focus on different things. I mean, I guess a hobby is finding different ways to train. So it always revolves around like finding some type of improvement physically, trying to stay sharp for my training whenever we get back. But what I've also been doing is I've gotten into doing live chats on Instagram, both for myself and for my company Gripp Tape. And that's been something I've actually really enjoyed. I think it's something that I hope to do beyond just this quarantine time. I really want to try to make it something that I do on the regular, because I remember as a kid I always felt pretty comfortable doing public speaking. So it's something I think I'd like to get into more. I feel like I have a lot to give to the jiu-jitsu community besides just techniques and competitions. I think my voice can help provide a lot of information that maybe people don't get when watching technique or watching me compete. So question 2, are you keeping any structure to your days right now? What does that look like? So for me, the first 2 days during this whole thing, I kind of had a mini freak out where I wasn't really sure what I was gonna do. I'm always very regimented in my training routine. So to have it all just taken away, which is like 95% of my life, was pretty difficult for me to handle at first. You know, I kind of sat around for a couple days just eating bad food and not doing anything and kind of feeling sorry for myself a little bit. But after that, I really kind of figured out a good routine to kind of stay active the entire time. You know, I tried to mimic my training schedule. So basically every morning now I'm either drilling or sparring with my roommate at 8 a.m. And then after that, I'll work out from about 9:15, 9:30 to about, 11 o'clock. From there, is more like either social media time or business promotion time where I'll do some live chats. I'll post some stuff. I'll try to find ways where we can promote Gripp Tape. After that, I do another workout later. I always got to do twice a day, God forbid if I take some time off. And then after that second workout, I usually like to go for a walk. I try to get outside a little bit, obviously still keeping a good social distancing, not really going near anybody, but I can't be sitting here in this apartment forever. So yeah, that's what my schedule's pretty much like. I like that I can at least keep a routine. I'm not kind of going into any day thinking, okay, am I gonna do this, I'm gonna do that. I kind of have a set schedule for the day, and I feel like that's what's keeping me from going crazy. So question 3, what is my favorite pizza spot? I mean, I guess it's changed. Probably for a lot of people you won't know because, it's places in Hoboken. I don't really go out too much in the city, honestly. And honestly, a few of the pizza places I went to in the city that were go-tos, apparently, I wasn't really feeling too much, honestly. For me, my favorite place is one that's right around the corner from my apartment, Napoli's Pizza in Hoboken, New Jersey. There's a spot on Clinton Street and a spot on Washington Street, for those who know. And I find it to be really good. Another favorite spot of mine is Impasto's on Washington Street as well. They have really, really good buffalo chicken pizza. You kind of feel like a piece of shit after eating it, but if you're down to feel kind of gross, then it's definitely worth it. So question 4, what do you see for yourself and for the sport of jiu-jitsu to be in the next 5 years, 10 years? For me, I just continue to see myself continuing to compete, continuing to do what I do, but also continuing to expand on what I do. I don't want to be so singular focused on just competing after a while. I want to start focusing on helping other people more. I want to start focusing on opening up my own gym, being less selfish with my training. I hope that I'm able to find a good balance where I can do both while I'm opening school and still being able to compete and still stay active at the same time. So I don't really have a certain timeline on that. I don't know if it's 5 or 10 years, but I definitely see myself continuing to compete. But as the years go on, probably not as often, and starting to focus more on trying to develop my own students. I have a goal wanting to develop people that are, world champions at all belts. I really want to not only succeed as a competitor, but as a coach as well. It's kind of a goal that has really started to, is something that I've really been wanting to do. I think it's something that I would really feel, I'd feel more accomplished being able to develop other people than I would be, winning all the titles myself. And for the sport, I see it continuing to grow and just getting bigger and hopefully becoming more mainstream. It's hard to say, but I think events like Kasai and this last ABCC, the production value is really high. Also events like Spider in Korea, the cash prizes that are starting to come out is starting to make the sport more professional. And it's hard to say, but I could just see it continue to get better and start seeing it more on the mainstream market out there. So question 5, this is an interesting one, I like this. Have you ever felt anything more than just passion towards jiu-jitsu? For example, has it ever become more of a job or chore at any point of your career? Yeah, I mean, 18 years of training, I've felt everything that you could possibly feel in jiu-jitsu. I've had passion for it. I've hated it sometimes. I've kind of wanted to get away from it sometimes. But then just as fast, I'll love it right away again. There has been periods of times where I do feel like it's a job and I don't feel like it should feel like a job. And when that happens, when I do feel like it's a job, it's important for me to shift my mindset in training. I remember I would find times where when I'm there all day and just training really hard and going through this rigorous routine, getting ready for competition or just looking to improve, it'd be taxing both physically and mentally, where I'd kind of be a little burnt. So what I would do when I felt like it was kind of a job, I would really try to shift my mindset and try to turn it into something a little bit more fun, a little bit more playful. Maybe that means getting out of the stuff that I do for competition and trying to focus on working different techniques, trying to become more well-rounded. If I focus just solely on getting ready for a competition, it can be a little overwhelming sometimes. It can cause me to burn out because I feel like this pressure to have to get ready for this competition and be as well prepared as possible. So I think sometimes it's better to shift your mindset and just focus on going out there, having fun, experimenting with things, seeing what works, seeing what doesn't. It makes it a little bit more enjoyable. It takes the pressure off a little bit as well, I've always felt. So yeah, I've felt all different types of things, but when you feel down, it's just important to focus on trying to keep it light. At the end of the day, it is just a sport. People will probably be offended that I said that, but it is. What do I love most about the jiu-jitsu community? I mean, a lot of things. There's a lot of things I can say that I love about the jiu-jitsu community, but I really love the camaraderie in it when you go to all these big tournaments. I don't know if that's like a thing to answer for it, but I love being together with everybody. And for example, going to Abu Dhabi every year, for the last 6 years was amazing because I don't even know if I really cared for where I was going. It was just really cool always being around like-minded people with similar goals, and we can all kind of bounce ideas off of each other. And what I like is that even when you're competing with people, it's still, in most cases, not everybody, but in most cases, it's easy to communicate with them. I love the idea of being able to still be social with the people that I'm competing with, the people that are chasing after the same goals that I am, and still keep it cordial. I always felt like jiu-jitsu is, even though it's a contact sport and it can get brutal, it can get mean sometimes, I still feel like it's a very respectful sport. I still feel like a lot of people in the community, whether you're a competitor and you're competing against each other or not, there's a level of respect that comes with this game that I always appreciated. So now we have some questions here. We have a question here from Smorachka. So it's Nora and Seth. I hope you guys are doing well. I hope you guys are staying safe, and I hope to visit your gym sometime. I've always wanted to come down or come up and visit, and I haven't been able to do that, so hopefully I can make it out once this is all over. But Shmoraka, sorry, I don't know how to pronounce that. What do you do on the day of a tournament leading up to your matches? So this can go a lot of different directions because, to be honest, I try my best to not have a set routine day of a competition. I used to be so set on like having like, okay, I'm gonna wake up at this time, I'm gonna have breakfast at this time before I compete, you know, X amount of hours before I compete. I wanna warm up this way, and this way I'm gonna get to the bullpen 15 minutes before my first match. I always used to just have it all laid out. But the problem with that is that sometimes something's gonna throw that off. You're not always gonna be able to have that routine that you like. And if you get thrown off by it and you're not ready to just be able to adjust, then you kind of freak out. I've had those freakouts where I'm like, oh shit, you know, what do I do now? It's important to be flexible and to kind of just go with how you're feeling that day. You know, for me, sometimes if I know I'm competing later in the day, like if we're at a hotel, I'll wake up in the morning and I'll go ride the bike. I'll just get a sweat going or something. If I'm earlier, obviously I'm not going to be doing that. I'll just wake up extra early. I always like to drill before. If I have a partner with me, that's great. I usually like to drill with a partner. That's always plan A. Plan B is being able to just kind of do any type of solo drills that you can on your own, just to warm up. For me, like breakfast-wise, food-wise, I'm always just trying to eat the same thing that I would every other day, not really changing up too much if I can, depending on where your weight's at before you have to compete. But the biggest thing I would say is like you don't have to have like a set routine, and I definitely think that like my way is not always going to be your way, but it's important to, you know, just be able to be flexible, be able to be adjustable, because if your mind is rigid and you're not allowing yourself to adjust, and you kind of like, and it's either this way or no other way, you know, then you know, if something goes wrong, it's going to throw you off. I always remember like I went to Brasileiros a couple years ago and nothing of my routine was in place. But I was just so used to competing, I was so used to be able to just adjust that I could do whatever, you know, it didn't matter. I was always able to kind of just figure it out as I went along, and I just didn't really worry about it. I think that's important. Next question from Space Wacko 13. I like that. Are wrist locks worth it? It's a very general question. I'm not really sure. Are they worth, like, you know, holding out and not tapping to? Are they worth going for? If it's gonna get me the tap, I say go for it. If it's a low risk submission, I go for it. You know, I like going for wrist locks. I had like a small phase where I was finishing some wrist locks. Then people got aware and they stopped tapping to them and they started defending them faster. So I need to get better at them. But I definitely think they are worth it. You know, I mean, if it's gonna get you to tap, it's gonna get you to win. Yeah, prison rules, go for it. Okay, next one, T-Bear C Hunger, T-Bear Chunger. I don't know. Would you rather fight one horse-sized duck or 100 duck-sized horses? Now, I was listening to this debate earlier today with my roommate and one of our Gripp Tape team members, and yeah, you know what? At first, I thought a horse-sized duck, I would want to take on one of them, because I train to handle, you know, one thing. You know, if there's 100 of them, you know, sometimes I feel like I can be a little overwhelmed. But if this horse, I guess it depends on the horse's size, the horse-sized duck. If it's just one and it's like 350 pounds, then that could be an issue. So if it's 350 pounds, if it's really that big, I probably would take the 100 duck-sized horses instead, because they're probably going to be really small. They're probably going to be like 3-4 pounds. I could just kind of like stomp on them pretty much. So at first I was like, the huge one, I'll just take the one huge one. But I think it might be better to take the smaller ones, you know, having the high ground there, being the bigger one. So, yeah. Okay, next question from Stainless Marv. What are some key things to focus on if you're tall and lanky? I have a 7-foot wingspan and opponents attack arms. Well, unfortunately, I can't really give you the best answer with that because I'm not that lanky myself. I am not that tall. I think that's a great attribute to have, to be tall. I guess you do have to be aware of your arms a little bit, but also like if you posture up well, if you kind of just focus on keeping your arms in, I think it'll be hard for guys to attack your arms mostly. I would say that probably the issue is that you're overreaching when people are attacking your arms. If you're trying to pass, you're probably overextending that arm. I always like to think of when I'm passing, having good posture and thinking about being like almost like a T-Rex, where you kind of keep your elbows by your sides as you're pushing down the leg, stepping over breaking a del Eva, stepping over the leg, going into your passes from there. I would just say focus on like, if you feel like you're kind of like exposing yourself, it doesn't matter the length of your arms or how tall you are or whatever. It's just if you overextend, you can leave yourself exposed for arm lock submissions. So I would just say, I always like to try to tell people to think about being like a T-Rex right here, you know, and just kind of keep your elbows close to you and just kind of be aware of that. But that comes for anybody. I don't think there's anything in particular that you need to focus on. I mean, you could definitely, there's a lot of things you can take advantage of with your length. There's definitely a lot of good advantages, like you can, you know, triangles and omoplatas should be your thing, because, you know, that's something that works really well for long people. But at the end of the day, you know, I think it's all pretty much the same for everybody: short, small, tall, wide. And the last question that we have, yes, this is the last question that we have, is how long before I open up my own gym? That is a good question. So my parents, they're telling me that I need to open my gym by the age of 30, but I just turned 28 about a month ago, and that's coming up really fast all of a sudden. So I can't say for sure. I think I could see myself opening a gym by the time I'm like 32. I think that's a reasonable goal. If I don't have a location yet, it's probably still gonna be a few years, but let's say like by 3 or 4 years, that's when I would like to open a gym. I think by that point I would have been competing regularly for about 22 years, so that's a pretty long time to be regularly competing. I think at that point it would be a good time for me to shift my focus and find different goals. So yeah, assume that I would be opening a gym in the next 4 years or so. Where, still not sure. I would love to stay in North Jersey. I've always been used to, and I've always been comfortable here. There's some places I have in mind that I won't reveal that I would love to make happen, but we'll see. I'm trying to stay as open-minded about that as possible, so let's see. Hope you guys liked it, and thanks for joining.